Series 3 of Doctor Who is good. That's nice. That's nice to be able to say. I watched Gridlock. To no one's surprise, it's good. It's a very simple story. The story is basically the Doctor and Martha show up. Some stuff happens. The Doctor throws a switch. The problem is solved. I'm not giving the story a hard time by doing that. That is what the story is. But that's not necessarily a problem. That's not a problem. It's like you can have simple stories. It's fine. What Gridlock is basically doing is taking an interesting situation and basically telling some short stories about stuff that happens in that situation. The Doctor then throws a switch at the end. Jobs are good 'un. There are some really nice moments. For example, the community of people locked in cars in the motorway. They have a moment every day where they sing a song together. And moments like that really give the world texture and depth. When we talk about world building, that's the sort of thing we mean. It's a moment that makes the place feel real and lived in, because it takes this society, people trapped in their cars on a motorway, and it thinks, what would happen to people like that? They would really lose themselves because they're trapped in a very small box in a situation with no escape, even though they don't technically know there's no escape. How would they cope with this? Through community, through solidarity, through art, etc., etc., etc. Very cool. There are some drug dealers at the start that sell like the ability to forget or like synthetic happiness. It's seeding the answer to why the motorway became a problem, but it is also telling us this situation's really bad. People use synthetic drugs in order to like deal with how fucked it is. Very cool. Ardal O'Hanlon's a fun guest star. You're very well dressed for a hitchhiker. It's good. It's not amazing. Is it about right? 42 continues to be a bit of an outlier in this section, but yeah, it's good. It's fun. Okay, Blink. To absolutely no one's surprise, Blink is very good. I don't think it's top tier. Controversial. Blink is extremely good. It's incredibly focused. Obviously, the concept is amazing. Obviously, Carey Mulligan gives a fucking stellar performance as Sally Sparrow. It being very good, rather than top tier, could be simply that Blink is probably the episode of Modern Who that I have rewatched the most. So I know its tricks, and I kind of prefer the Series 5 Weeping Angel episodes, Forest of the Dead, something like that, Time of Angels and whatever the second episode's called, because I find the story more interesting. It's more twisty-turny. Amy is doing really well. Matt Smith's performance is amazing. And it ties in really well to the overarching story of Series 5. There are a couple of issues, but they're all to do with the production. When the Weeping Angels are trapped looking at each other, Nightingale stands up in between them, thereby blocking a bunch of their views of each other, and they're trapped. They'll never move again, but they're in a cellar with a light on, so as soon as the power gets cut, they'll be able to move. And at the end, there's the Doctor saying, "Don't blink, don't even blink," and it's shots of, like, Weeping Angels around London. There's no reason for it to be there. I'm pretty sure the episode just came in short, and they had to pad it a bit. But it's very good. I don't have anything to say. Blink has been relitigated over and over. So we then have the Series 3 finales. These 3 linked episodes that you could separate off Utopia, but it's not a good idea to, because they are telling one contiguous story from episode 10, 12, 11 and 12. So, Utopia is a really interesting episode. We start with the TARDIS landing in Cardiff. Martha's going, "Oh yeah, sorry." In Gridlock, the Doctor, one of the characters in Gridlock says to the Doctor, "Oh, you must really care for Martha to be trying to take care of her this much." And he said, "Oh, no idea. I only just met her. I just sort of dragged her along on a whim." And it shows kind of the only self-reflection the Doctor will show in this series, which is a problem. In Utopia, the Doctor's landed in Cardiff. Jack gets a ping on his devices and starts running towards the TARDIS. Jack runs towards the Doctor to say hi, and the Doctor immediately tries to run away. Jack tries to grab on. We get the single worst shot in all of Doctor Who. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but it was bad. They shouldn't have done it. It breaks a lot of fundamental rules of cinematography. And the TARDIS then flies away. Okay, so what we get with the Doctor intentionally running away from / abandoning Jack is a really nice encapsulation of the problem with David Tennant's Doctor in Series 2 and Series 3. I believe 10 chills the fuck out in the next series, Series 4, mainly because Donna Noble is an excellent companion and she calls him on his bullshit, which no one has done, because Martha is a very smart, very on-the-ball character who calls out bullshit when she sees it, but the show has a bit of a blind spot for her doing that with the Doctor right up until kind of the last couple episodes. And I think that's because, the writers didn't realise they were writing Ten as an asshole. The Doctor runs away from Jack, and why? It's really prickish of him to do. Jack got given a massively increased lifespan. Not for any fault of his own. Rose did it to him. But the Doctor hates him and just tries to run away. Just, fully could go and help Jack out with this problem. But he doesn't. He, chooses to stay away. And the metatextual reason for this is because Jack was in Torchwood, and so, having the Doctor show up would be a problem. Because it would basically go, okay, why is Jack staying around? It's because he's working with Torchwood. Yeah, but why doesn't he, fly off amongst the stars again? Because he could. It's because the Doctor won't come and pick him up. It's it's a bad reason, because Jack should stay with Torchwood because he wants to stay with Torchwood, not because he didn't have a choice. It's incredibly cruel for the Doctor to just fuck off, leave him, and try to never talk to him again, despite the fact that Jack has this situation where he now can't fucking die, which is genuinely traumatic for him. It's really bad. And the Doctor says, oh, you're unnatural. I can't help it. It's in my Time Lord genealogy. It's okay, great. Your biology is telling you that Jack is wrong. When you look at Jack, you get a sense of, that's wrong, I don't like it. I don't want to bring everything back to autism, but it's something that a lot of people feel a lot of the time. For example, I need to have the water temperature to be at a certain level when I have a shower. And if it's the wrong temperature, if it's too hot or too cold, it feels wrong and I can't deal with it. So I have to get it right and then I can go into the shower, right? However, if there was a friend of mine who really, really needed help, who wasn't okay, and I was basically the only person who could help them, and it required me to go in water of the wrong temperature, I would fucking deal with it. Because I'm not a prick. And this is an extreme example. But throughout Ten's run, it has been pretty consistent that he is extremely selfish. This was evident in Series 2, when he and Rose would just be entirely wrapped up in their own shit and would basically ignore everything else. And it's evident here, he treats Martha like shit really consistently, because he's constantly... Yeah, Martha calls him out as, clearly on the rebound. And he treats Jack like shit. And really interestingly, in these last 3 episodes, as soon as he finds out that the Master is involved, his entire focus is on, helping the Master get over his shit rather than anything else that's going on. He puts a lot of people in really serious danger by just being really fucking selfish. I don't like it. Editing Mike here. I forgot my personal... What's the opposite of a favourite? My possible least favourite moment of Ten being a prick. We're going to have to watch this on YouTube, because for some reason my copy of the file doesn't want to show this bit. So, in this bit, Martha has just left the Doctor. She's gone, I can't leave my family, I've got to get out. And having given the, like, big reason why she's got to leave, she comes back in and gives the small reason.
The thing is, it's like my friend Vicky. She lived with this bloke, student housing. There was 5 of them all packed in, and this bloke was called Sean. And she loved him. She did. She completely adored him, spent all day long talking about him.
Is this going anywhere?
Yes.
Is this going anywhere? The Doctor isn't interested on what Martha has to say when she's on the way out of his door. The Doctor clearly doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks unless he wants to have sex with them. It's really bad. People love 10. I don't know why. He's a prick. He's less bad in Series 4. I hope. We'll find out. So, Utopia. The TARDIS tries to fling Jack off, and they go to the end of the Earth. Okay, so here we go. One of the reasons I love Utopia more than the other 3 episodes is because I think Derek Jacobi's performance is amazing. He does a really good job of presenting as someone who's really torn up inside. The woman who plays Chantho's good. I can see why Russell brought the actress back for Series 4, because she does a really good job. The future kind are dumb. There are these guys who are doing a human hunt, and they've just got pointy teeth. And that's, like, 100% of why they're bad. They are also bad because, like, they do human hunts and things. But this is the year 10 billion or whatever. Everyone has really serious problems to be dealing with. Why do the future kind not have serious problems? They want to eat the humans, fine. Can they not eat each other? It seems like it'd be easier. Anyway. They go into this compound. Derek Jacobi, this is so cute. Derek Jacobi, Professor Yana, goes, are you the Doctor? Is that the Doctor? Oh, amazing. He grabs the Doctor's hand and runs with him. It's so cute. And the audience isn't supposed to know he's the Master. Oh yeah, there's one future kind in the thing who just wants to fuck things up for no reason. She's just there to cause some peril. Anyway, so they go into Yana's lab. Jack wants to fuck Chantho, and who can blame him? There's the hand that starts triggering memories. Oh god, yeah. I lost my hand. They say, yeah, Doctor says, I lost my hand in a sword fight. Don't show the sword fight. Don't show that really, really terrible moment, guys. Anyway, so yeah, all of this is causing Professor Yana to, like, start remembering who he really is. They do it about 5 times too many. They should have only done it a few times, because it is a bit fucking... It's a bit much. But also, it doesn't really make sense, because the Doctor in Family of Blood / Human Nature had his diaries, and he was reading about all the things he'd done. That didn't make him want to open the watch, but Professor Yana, hearing keywords, TARDIS, Time Lord, I regenerated, etc., that does make him want to open the watch. And you could say that the reason is because Yana has been trapped as a human for much, much longer than the Doctor had. And that's a reasonable explanation. It's not one the show gives, but they're looking for a place called Utopia, but they can't launch the rocket. So Yana asks the Doctor to help. So the Doctor just does some technobabble to get the system working. Murray Gold's soundtrack is really good. This track is called Gallifrey. So...
It's working, Doc!
But how did you do that?
Oh, we've been chatting away, I've got to tell you. I'm brilliant.
This is what I mean when I say I'm not a fan of Tennant's performance of 10. Which is, he says, I'm brilliant there, and I want to fucking punch him. Like, these people are in a really desperate situation. Do you really think now is the time to be showing off? Anyway, so yeah, the rest of this is fairly straightforward. There's some peril. The future kind smashes some shit. They use Jack to go into the peril and sort the things out. Martha continues to be the smartest person in the room. Oh, yeah, so here is where the Doctor tells Jack that he's wrong, And yeah, he doesn't like looking at Jack, and it's like, it's bad and I don't like it. And they appear to be trying to shoot David Tennant evilly. So maybe it's dealt with. Maybe Jack says to him, what you're saying is you're prejudiced. And the doctor says, maybe. No, he says, I hadn't thought of it like that. He doesn't say maybe. He says, yeah, okay, cool. So he says, yeah. And like, that is 100% of the self-reflection we get on the doctor just abandoning his friend in this really shit situation. It's bad. Martha realizes that Yana has the Chameleon Arch watch. Martha, being a smart cookie, goes, I'm not just gonna tell Yana what's up. Rose would definitely have told Yana what's up. Rose would have wanted a cookie for being a good girl and would have gone, oh, you should just be free, Professor Yana. Hey, open the watch. Because this is Rose from Series 2, by the way. Rose from Series 1, who can say? But yeah, Martha's a smart cookie, so she goes to tell the doctor. They get the rocket launched. Yana opens his watch. Oh yeah, this is bad. You are not alone was the last words of the face of Bo. You are not alone. Y-A-N-A. Yana, Professor Yana. There's no reason for that to be in there. The characters don't realise it. It's all for the audience. Why is it there? If you had a character work it out, it might have been okay. But, like, did the face of Bo intentionally try to tell the doctor that Professor Yana was the master? You are not alone, Yana. Because if not, Bo could have said, by the way, Professor Yana's the doctor. It's just kind of a weird bit of Russ wanted to be... No, like, it's just a weird... The show wants to have a cute thing in there that feels like a twist or a revelation, but it doesn't actually want to put the work in. I don't know. I don't like it. Yana lets the future kind in. He kills Chantho. Chantho shoots him. And that is a problem, but it's only going to be a problem later. Yana goes in the TARDIS. He regenerates into John Sim in a lovely performance. And he leaves. The Doctor does some bullshit to the TARDIS. End of episode. It's really good. I like it a lot. It's got problems, but like, well, every episode has problems, and I really enjoy Derek Jacobi's performance. I really enjoy Chantho's performance. I don't like how much of an arsehole the Doctor is, but the problems with the episode beyond that are kind of nitpicky. It creates this really great atmosphere. The desperation of the humans it comes through. The place is really like ramshackle and run down. It really feels like this place, this community of people with nowhere else to go, is really cool. It feels like it's impossible to present the future year 100 billion or whatever, but they do a really good job of like people desperately trying to survive at the end of the universe. Cool. Sound of Drums. Sound of Drums is interesting. So you have Martha's family who are collaborating with the security services. Now, as I've said before, I'm not an expert on race. You can tell because of this. But I do always raise an eyebrow when people from the African diaspora, black racialized people, work with the police. Because I suspect that Martha's family wouldn't have done that because of how the police generally treat black people in the UK. It's a generalisation. Like, Martha's family are middle class, maybe upper middle class. They won't have felt the same bite that many racialised people feel in the UK. But it still makes me raise an eyebrow. Particularly as in Last of the Time Lords, they have Adjoa Ando's character, Martha's mum, being a domestic servant to the master, which on the one hand could be a very, like, pointed choice, but it could also be something done out of complete ignorance because it's never examined. It's not great. but so yeah, the episode starts off with the TARDIS crew landing, how they escaped the Future Kind, no problems. It's Harold Saxon. Harold Saxon's the Master. Cue the credits. The Master murders his cabinet in a way which has aged extremely well, because given the political situation in the UK and around the world, this is it's kind of unfortunate that in 2007 this was written, and things have only got worse politically since 2007. Oh, it's really funny. The Master wants to gas everyone, and he keeps saying words when he's got his gas mask on, and he then has to repeat it, so he takes the gas mask off. I like it a lot. Anne Widdecombe gives the Master an endorsement. I don't think Anne Widdecombe knew how much of a self-own that was, because Anne Widdecombe seemingly has no sense of self-knowledge or introspection whatsoever. A journalist goes to Mrs. Saxon and tries to convince Mrs. Saxon that Master's evil, and she goes, I know, and the journalist gets killed. We'll talk about Mrs. Saxon in a bit. Martha's family get grabbed. Leo survives. I don't know why. Maybe because they forgot about him? Leo just is in this one scene and then never again. Was the actor busy? The Doctor and the Master talk on the phone, and we reveal the Archangel Network. So the Archangel Network is a series of 15 satellites that are in orbit around Earth, and they contain this psychic field which makes people want to obey the Master. And it's going to be crucial to the rest of the plot going forward. And so it's important to say right now that the Archangel field, everything we know about it is that it's one way. It's a signal from the satellites that says, don't worry too much about the inconsistencies with the Master and, obey him. It doesn't work too well on an individual basis. We see the President of the US doesn't feel it later, but it works on a population level. Cool. What it never does is receive signals from Earth and then feed those back to the population until right at the end of the next episode. Anyway, the Doctor and Master have a chat. They go on the run. The Doctor does some stuff where he makes 3 TARDIS keys that make people have a perception filter on them. He gives the Master's background, and we get Torchwood gets a video from the journalist talking about Archangel. The Doctor explains the perception filter as if saying, oh, it's as if you fancy someone and they don't know you even exist. And Jack says, oh, you too, huh? And I don't think Martha fancies the Doctor. And I don't think that's on Freema or on Tennant. I think that, they just keep telling us she fancies the Doctor, but it's never actually evident. I'm demisexual. I don't know how the fucking allosexuals do this fancying thing. I'm just not convinced, okay? They go on the run. We get some foreshadowing about the Toclophane, the aliens, they're going to zap stuff. And these guys are sort of running around. They get onto the aircraft carrier. It's an aircraft carrier in the sky. The same thing that they'll do in Marvel films 10 years later. That's kind of neat. They find the TARDIS. The Master has made it a paradox machine that's not on yet. First contact with aliens. The President of US comes in and is like, oh, hey, you guys. But the Toclophane don't want to talk to the President, so the Master gets the Toclophane to shoot the President. No problem. Here we know the Master has been able to see through the perception filter. And he's like, of course I can see through the perception filter. Which, yes, true, but if it's that obvious, I'm not sure why the Doctor thought it would work. Fine. The Master zaps Tennant and gives him an extra 100 years or whatever. And the effect they use to demonstrate this is really bad. It's that. It's not good, guys. And so, yeah, all is lost. The effect to make Tennant look really old from Family of Blood, Human Nature it's noticeably different this time, presumably because they needed the Doctor to be able to move and say things. And I don't think it looks particularly good, but what are you going to do? Martha's family has been captured. The Master rips open the sky and lets the Trotlophane through, who begin smashing everyone. Martha teleports out, the end. It's good because the problems that are going to show up in Last of the Time Lords aren't really evident yet. There's a lot going on. I really like the Doctor and the crew having to be on the run. There are a few problems. The Doctor is so laser focused on the Master. Like, I'm not here to stop him, I'm here to save him. The Doctor has encountered the Master many times. The Master is always an unapologetic murdering bastard, and the Doctor knows this completely. Don't know why he's so fixated on saving him. We'll get to that in a bit. Last of the Time Lords. Last of the Time Lords is a fucking mess. So we begin with the guy who would go on to play Lucifer in the eponymous TV show. It's cool. He doesn't really have a whole lot to do, and he doesn't do a brilliant job in this character. But, you know, nice to see him. The Master is still being a dick, but the Martha's family and the Doctor have a plan to deal with the Master. They each pass for number 3, as in, when it's 3 o'clock, go begin the plan. Great. Martha and Lucifer see a field of spaceships that are going to go off and do shit. It's 3 p.m. It's time to begin the plan. Oh, God, yeah, okay. This is the time to do it. Okay. So the Master and his wife come out, and his wife has a bruise. Or like a cut. The implication being the Master has been beating her. Which leads me to the question. Why is the Master's wife here in this show? She doesn't do anything. The Master doesn't need her. She doesn't provide the Master access or any expertise. She's not someone he can use. He's just being an abusive husband. And maybe she served some point in a deleted scene or something. But you don't get points for that because it's not in the episode. In the episode, she has no function except to be a woman who is attacked by an abusive husband. She is like, it's misogynistic. It's misogyny. She is a woman whose only role is to be pretty and attacked by an abuser. It's not as if the Master isn't... It's not as if you need the Master hitting his wife to be present, because otherwise we wouldn't know if the Master is evil or not. It's bizarre. It's a weird choice. You know how, around 2007, we started to move away from baddies killing protagonists' girlfriends to baddies killing the protagonist's dog? Because people had worked out that, hey, maybe having the girlfriend being murdered by the baddie so often is a bit misogynistic. But apparently Russ didn't get that memo. It's not good. It's a sign of the times, I know, but seriously, she has no function other than to be beaten up by the Master. And that's bad. I don't like it. Great. Okay, so, right. Martha's family and Jack and the Doctor begin their attempt on the Master's life. And the Doctor gets the laser screwdriver and wants to point it and, use it on the Master. And it's locked to the Master's biology, so he can't use it. And I hate it. It's cool to have a plot for them to free themselves from the Master, which they enact and it fails. But I really don't like the fact that the Doctor was the one to, pull the trigger, as it were, because he's really determined to not kill the Master. And we'll get there, because we're nearly there. Lucifer and Martha go to see this Doctor here. Okay, so they find out that the Trotlophane have the humans from Utopia in there. Very cool. The Master reduces the Doctor down to this extremely ropey CG little dude. I don't like it. I think it looks terrible. It looks stupid. But, okay, so they go. Martha and Lucifer and the Doctor, their Doctor, go, why can't we just shoot the Master? And they go, oh, well, he just regenerates. It's like, yes, You shoot him, he regenerates. You keep doing it. But it's for show going. You can't shoot the master. And because he regenerates. And no one says, well, what happens if we shoot him again? Or what happens if we shoot him in the leg? Just anything. So, like, the show is really determined for you to not to want to shoot the master. And that leads us on to pacifism. I am a pacifist. Doctor Who is a pacifist character. It's very cool. Like, there basically aren't any pacifist characters in fiction. There are some, but they're very, very rare. And partly because they're very, very rare, we rarely talk about the spectrum of pacifism. There are many, many types of pacifist. For example, there are pacifists that say all violence is always wrong all the time, forever, right? And that is the pacifism that is in sort of our modern cultural space. It is triumphed by, we hold up figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Gandhi as these sorts of pacifists. And culture likes to do that because it presents a very uncomplicated narrative. All Rosa Parks had to do was to not give up her seat on the bus, and racial equality inevitably followed. It is a narrative that Chris Chibnall decided to write for his Rosa Parks episode, blissfully ignoring that Rosa Parks did exactly that as part of a planned protest by the NAACP, the National Something Association of Coloured People. It wasn't a single principled act of non-violence that inevitably led to US segregation crumbling. It was part of a coordinated campaign that worked in, like, hand in hand with the Black Panthers. So, and similarly, Gandhi, freed India from a British Empire. He wouldn't have been able to do that were it not for the violent tactics of the Ghadar Party, who were also working at the same time. Non-violence is a very useful tactic, but it is a tactic we are really seeing the limits of in the 21st century. We are seeing a vast number of protests in the UK. We had Greenpeace, then we had Insulate Britain, and then Just Stop Oil. A lot of really disruptive, non-violent protests. And have you noticed how we're no closer to actually taking meaningful action on climate change? Non-violence is a useful tactic. By itself, it doesn't do a whole lot. You need to have a plurality of tactics. So, to bring this back to pacifism, because our cultural space has this idea that the way you practice the way you enact political change is by peaceful protest and nothing else. For the love of God, society doesn't want you to do what the suffragettes did, which involved some non-violent protest. They also threw bombs, and one of the suffragettes beat Winston Churchill with a horsewhip. Fuck yeah. But society has this idea that you make your citizens' voice heard by doing non-violent protest, and that has sort of created this idea that pacifism is just no violence for any reason ever. That is not all pacifism is. There are plenty of pacifists who were conscientious objectors during both World Wars. There are also pacifists who sat World War I out, justifiably, and then when World War II came around, they went, oh fuck, what is happening is so bad, we need to actually shut Hitler down, right? A form of pacifism is, I will commit violence if it shuts down greater violence. And that is the sort of pacifism you need in the face of the Master. One of the things about Batman refusing to kill the Joker, particularly in The Dark Knight, is if you have Joker in your power, because the Joker always breaks out of prison, right? So The Dark Knight presents a situation where you have this guy and he can never be held by prison, right? So you have the guy, he can't go to prison because he always breaks out. And every time he breaks out, he causes loads of deaths. If you have him in your power and you then let him go, you are responsible for what he goes on then to do. And again, I don't particularly like that media is making me argue for the death penalty. But what I am actually arguing for here is pragmatism. Which is like, we have here, in Last of the Time Lords, a really terrible situation. Loads of people are in concentration camps. Loads of people have been bombed off the face of the earth. If those are the stakes, and killing one person would put an end to it, you should kill that one person. I'm a pacifist. I believe this, right? But that would not be the situation, because there are many forms of pacifism and there are many approaches you could take that would deal with the situation. For example, they say in this whole scene where you can't just shoot the master, it's like, okay, maybe you could argue that you shouldn't, like, murder the master. That's a reasonable thing. There are lots of ways you could, like, deal with him that don't involve murdering him. You could shoot him in the leg and then, like, just keep doing that. And that's torture. Torture's bad, right? But, like, what will shut down the master? Whereas, alternatively, what they present is this plot that doesn't do a whole lot, and it leaves the weapon pointing at the master in the hands of the one person who won't use it. What he would do to the master is inherently pointless, because in this episode, Ten is absolutely fixated on saving the master. He doesn't really care what happens to everyone else. And you can kind of tell this, because when he turns into Jesus later, he immediately, like, drops down to the ground and just fucking goes and hugs this genocidal monster. He goes and hugs alien Hitler. Don't do that. There is a reasonable point here, which is no one is beyond redemption. Okay? A pacifist principle is society creates monsters. People are not born monsters, they become monsters through circumstance and through incentives. Hitler would never have come to power and done all the things that he went on to do if circumstances hadn't incentivized him doing those exact things. And we are seeing a similar sort of problem around the world currently, which is a lot of really far-right dictators or dictators in waiting getting into power because they promise to break us out of the administrative deadlock that the centre-right have had us in for decades, right? Society is creating these, like, a seriously broken society created by centre-right shitheads is creating a problem with far-right actors who promise to give people the solution to why we're caught in administrative deadlock. Because all we keep doing as societies is doing the same thing over and over again. Lower taxes on the wealthy and, like, gut social programs, and just make lives for ordinary people much worse. Blame all our problems on immigrants rather than the fact that we're not taxing rich people. Basically turning just most people against each other, or, like, giving them an easy scapegoat. So you could make that same argument with the Master. The problem is, the Master has been doing this murderous shithead behaviour for many, 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 many years. Even ignoring this Master, like, previous incarnations of the Master have all been fucking terrible, right? So you can say we should forgive him because his power has been, like, he's been depowered at this point because of Jesus Doctor. My particular pacifist position is people need to show that they are willing to change before you should forgive them. Donald Trump is not an evil person, but only because evil people don't exist, evil acts exist. But the thing is, Donald Trump has more money than he knows what to do with. He wakes up every day and decides to make the world worse. He could go to therapy at any point, but he doesn't. Fuck that guy. So I don't like them forgiving the Master, particularly as they then don't know what to do with him. So the Doctor then says, oh, I'm going to take the Master with me in the TARDIS. And, like, dude, he's gonna escape. He always does. And it's not a great idea to have the Doctor go, oh, I'll take the Master with me in the TARDIS. In the same series as Family of Blood and Human Nature, where the Doctor, like, trapped a family member in a mirror for eternity, or he trapped a person like in a like dwarf star forever and ever and ever, right? And the family of Bud are much, much less awful than the Master. This is all contributing to the Doctor and his relationship with the Master just coming across as really fucking selfish, and the Doctor really not actually caring what the Master would then go on to do, as long as he can, like, keep the Master around. And on the one hand, that's very understandable, because the Doctor is lonely, he's the last of his kind. But also, he's incredibly selfish and he's getting a lot of people killed. Jesus Doctor is bad. So, Martha is supposedly going around the world gathering components for a gun that can kill the Doctor. The Master, sorry. Which is very different to a normal gun that could kill the Master, because this one has chemicals in it. And the Doctor there, played by someone who looks like Emma Thompson does now, but isn't, like, shops them in and Master picks her up. But what Martha is actually doing is going around and telling lots of people stories of the Doctor and getting people to believe in the Doctor and think the word Doctor at a certain time later in the episode. Martha gets picked up by the Master, and the Master zaps the gun that she's supposed to have been collecting this whole time. He thinks he knows what's going on, but he actually doesn't. Martha goes onto his ship. The Master is gonna send the invasion force off, and Martha laughs at him because actually, turns out, she didn't give a shit about the gun. This Doctor thing is so goofy. But what they actually wanted to do was have everyone say the word, and like think the word Doctor at a certain time, right? And what this does is hijack the Archangel network. This collection is 15 satellites. And what that does is, when they think the word Doctor, the Doctor turns into Jesus. Thinking the word Doctor does this. It was going pretty well. Oh my god. Yes, he's tuned himself into the psychic network and integrated with its matrices. He de-ages for some reason. Oh god. For one thing you can't... Deus Ex Machina. Oh, God. Anyway, so, yeah, the Doctor, then floats towards the Master. It's so dumb. It's like... So it's a technobabble ending. The Doctor says he's tuned himself into the psychic field's matrices. None of that makes any sense. We don't worry about it. Technobabble is fine as long as it's not overused. But there is a world of difference to going... I have tuned myself into your collection of 15 satellites that broadcast a signal telling people to, like, not worry about inconsistencies with the Master and trust him. There's a world of difference between that and being able to float through the air while glowing like Jesus. And the thing is, the Master is acting terrified. Why? The Doctor hasn't fucking done anything. Master still has a bloody laser screwdriver. Actually, to be fair, I think the Master tried to use the laser screwdriver on the Doctor. But anyway, like, it's as if the Doctor has proved over and over again that he won't actually do anything to the Master. So I don't get why the Master is worried by any of this. And this is the problem with the Doctor being really sanctimonious and like, oh no, you should never attack the Master. It's wrong. It's bad. It's always wrong. It's always bad to try and like, you can't murder dictators because you're becoming like them. It's the same, we're not so different, you and I, moral equivalent bullshit that Russell has like inserted into his era of Doctor Who many times at this point. Jack blasts the paradox machine that turns back time. If I could turn back time. And the Master's wife shoots the Master. That is the function she is there for, because the show doesn't want to have any of Martha's family or Jack take this final action that the show seems to think is the most awful thing a person could do. Taking a life is always, always wrong. Always, the show says. I fucking disagree. Killing Hitler is an obvious one, but let's leave that alone. Let's talk about killing Stalin. You can walk in to the USSR's Politburo just after the communist state has been newly formed, and you can shoot Stalin in the head, ending one of the world's most awful dictatorships before it's even started. Because I feel really stupid saying this because it feels so obvious. People who have done really, really, so many awful things, murdered millions of people, who have murdered millions of people, and you have every reason to think they will go on to murder millions of people. If you don't shut them down, you should shut them down. And it's not ideal to kill them. You should try to not kill them. But the Master has been put in situations where, he's been shut down multiple times, and he's got out, and he's always, gone back to doing the same thing. It's the same as with Blonde, right? But, so, okay. You can set... And Series 3 has modelled for us 4 ways you could deal with the Master's threat properly, by doing all the things the Doctor did to the family of Blood. And, I respect the position that you should never take someone else's life ever. The death penalty is always wrong, no matter what the circumstances. I respect that position. However, the show doesn't, because the show has the Master's wife kill him. So in the same way as Dalek didn't actually believe that letting the Dalek live was the right thing to do, because they have Rose tell the Dalek to kill itself at the end of its episode, this episode doesn't actually believe that letting the Master go is the right thing to do, because they have a character kill the fucking Master. A character who has no function other than to kill the Master right at the end and make sure that none of our sympathetic characters, the Doctor, Jack, Martha, Martha's family, none of those characters have blood on their hands. This is the only reason she's here. It's bad. 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 The episode is preaching to you. It's proselytizing. Murder is always wrong. Murder is always wrong. But we're still going to murder the character anyway, because we want the consequences of the murder without a sympathetic character getting their hands dirty. I would respect this position of murder is always wrong if the show actually followed through on that perspective. If the show actually tried to go, okay, Doctor, you are imprisoning the Master. Let's show what that is like. Let's show how hard the Doctor has to work in order to make sure the Master doesn't get out and start murdering millions of people again. But the show doesn't want to do that. It wants to stand proud and take a firm moral stance. Murder is always wrong, but it also doesn't want to live with that. It's a show that isn't actually interested in pacifism as an idea, as a collection of ideas, as a series of moral philosophies. It doesn't care. It wants to take grand moral stances. Murder is always wrong. But it also wants to not have to deal with that grand moral stance, right? It's a show that presents ideas but has nothing actually to say about them. Up until The Last of the Time Lords, the overarching story of Series 3 was being the best one. They would introduce overarching plot elements every once in a while, but they would be significant moments in the story. And then they had a 3-part finale that starts off really focused and sort of gradually gets less focused, But it's very character focused, whilst at the same time having a lot of twists and turns, characters making plays and counterplays. And it ends with this wet fart of an episode where the Doctor turns into Jesus and floats through the air, defeating the Master by floating through the air as a glowing Jesus figure. He manages to become glowing floating Jesus by having people think the word Doctor. As with Dalek, the show cheats to get around the incredibly simplistic moral proposition that it itself has championed. It's bad. Which leaves us with the question: is the overarching story of Series 1 or Series 3 better? Because the overarching story of Series 3 is much more complex and interesting, right up until the end. Whereas the overarching story of Series 1 is barely present, but it is satisfying when it happens. It all makes sense. It's very internally consistent. And so there isn't really an answer to that question. I don't think there's an answer, at least. I don't come down strongly on Series 1 or Series 3 because they both have upsides and they both have downsides, which is a shame. It's a real shame that Series 3, fucked it right at the end. I say right at the end, in the last episode. I would like to think that an actual pacifist writing for this show would have more to say about it. It's a shame. But Series 3 is really good, right? So we've had 2 episodes that are absolutely top tier. Entertainingly, 3 of the top episodes we've had across 3 series are written by Paul Cornell. More top tier episodes, in my opinion, than Stephen Moffat's written. So 2 from Series 3 in the absolute top, 1 in top tier, 3 in good, and then we got 1 okay, and then we've got some which are bad to terrible, or subpar to terrible, which honestly, after Series 2, sure, that's fine. Series 3, it's good. I'm looking forward to trying Series 4. I'm really looking forward to someone calling the Doctor out on his bullshit. I have a nasty feeling I'm not going to like Series 4 much because I don't remember it being particularly good. But we'll fucking see.